Okay, so let's look at our first biomolecule, carbohydrate. When people say carb, that's carbohydrate. So you eat carb, you eat carbohydrate. And carbohydrates, their monomer is called monosaccharide. So monosaccharide is the small Lego to build up carbohydrate. And when you combine two monosaccharide together, it's called disaccharide. And each one has example like monosaccharide, glucose, fructose. They're examples of monosaccharide. We will talk about it in detail. Disaccharide, you put two simple sugar together, lactose, sucrose, maltose. These three, they are disaccharide, examples of disaccharide. And when you combine more than one, more than two simple sugar together, it's called polysaccharide. And we have three examples. Glycogen, that's the animal sugar. Starch, that's the plant sugar. And cellulose, that's one you find in plants as well. Okay, so monosaccharide, that's the simple sugar. 5 examples: glucose, fructose, ribose, deoxyribose, and galactose. The first one is glucose, and that's the most famous one, also most common monosaccharide. Yes, 3 structure. I won't ask you the structure, so don't worry about memorizing them. Glucose, what's its function? Every living cell in your body, you need to have ATP because ATP is the energy source directly used by living cell. But we don't eat ATP, we eat carb. So when we eat carbohydrate, your digestive system will cut the carb into glucose. That's the simple sugar. And every cell in your body will take glucose in and with oxygen. And that's why we breathe in oxygen because your cells need oxygen. They take glucose and oxygen and they produce ATPs. Some textbooks say 36. I think your textbook says 38. So when we talk about the energy synthesis, and we will explain in detail. We will say 38 ATPs. At this moment, don't worry about this. Only know, okay, glucose, its job is to produce ATP. Byproduct, CO2 and water. So you find we breathe in oxygen, we breathe out CO2 and water. You actually breathe out water. If you don't trust me, you take a mirror, you put a mirror in front of your nose, and you find that vapor. So you actually breathe out water and CO2. And why we breathe in oxygen, breathe out CO2 and water? Because every living cell in your body do that. They take glucose, and in order to produce ATP. So in the test, if I ask you, what's the biomolecule used to produce ATP? And the answer will be glucose. What's the carbohydrate, monosaccharide, directly produce ATP, and that's glucose. Okay, next one is called fructose. Fructose is very similar to glucose, but structurally different. That's why we call them a different name, call them fructose. Fructose is the sugar you find in fruit. And in your body, when you eat fructose, basically your liver just turn the fructose into glucose. So if a person have diabetes, they also have to watch their sugar, not just their sugar intake, they also have to watch their fruit intake because when they eat fruit, even though it's fructose, the body will turn the fructose into glucose. And it's also used as energy source, like in the semen. Actually, the sperm directly use fructose because they can convert the fructose into glucose, and then glucose can be used as energy source. Okay, next two, ribose, deoxyribose. These two sugar, you find them in a nucleic acid. So ribose is being used in RNA and deoxyribose used in DNA. The only difference is the number 2. So each carbon, the one did not write down here is a carbon. Carbon 1, carbon 2. If you take organics chemistry, they will teach you how to name it clockwise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So carbon number 2, this is a carbon here. Carbon number 2 connect with the H, and that's the deoxyribose. If carbon number 2 connect with the OH, that's the ribose. That's the only difference. So they are part of structure of the DNA, RNA, they are nucleic acid. Another one called ATP. So ATP, this sugar is also ribose. You find they have OH, so that's a ribose. ATP is the direct energy source for every living cell. Every living cell just take ATP and they cut the phosphate group. This covalent bond, when the bond is broken, it releases energy. So the energy can be used by living cell. Every living cell use ATP as the energy source. And ribose used in ATP, used in RNA, and deoxyribose is used in DNA. Okay, next one, disaccharide. When you take two monomer together, connected together, and there are two sugar, so it's called a disaccharide. Two monosaccharide connected together is disaccharide. And here we have 3 examples: maltose, sucrose, and lactose. So how to form disaccharide? You just take 2 simple sugar, and then you combine them together. When you combine them together, you have to take OH away, take H away, and together they become water. So remember this called the dehydration synthesis. Suddenly I forget the name. Dehydration reaction, dehydration synthesis. We talked about in the previous lecture. So you take OH, take H away, remove together, become water, remove water. So dehydration synthesis is an important process to build up molecule. Now this molecule have 2 simple sugar and 2 glucose together. This molecule called maltose. It's an intermediate step. When you digest food, you can cut them into a 2 sugar molecule, and it's maltose. Okay, another famous one, sucrose. Sucrose is a glucose connect to a fructose. So glucose, fructose together, and that's the sucrose. So sucrose is your table sugar. That's the sugar you add in your coffee. That's the table sugar. So when you eat sugar, basically your digestive system will cut this. It's called hydrolysis. Hydrolysis, you cut this because you need to use water, give them an H, give an OH, and together you have a glucose and a fructose. That's breakdown. Breakdown is hydrolysis. So when you eat sucrose, it's easy to understand. When you break this down, it's a glucose. So when you eat sugar, directly you have the glucose as the energy source. Okay, next one called lactose. And lactose is the sugar disaccharide you find in milk. And when you drink milk, the lactose, you need to have enzyme to cut this into simple sugar. If you don't have the enzyme to cut this, basically your body could not digest milk. That's called the lactose intolerance. Some people have this. I won't call it disease, called the syndrome. The effect is they could not drink too much milk. They will have diarrhea because they don't have enough enzyme to digest lactose to cut this into simple sugar. So that's the disaccharide, these 3. You find they are very similar because it is 2 simple sugar combined together. Okay, then how sweet is sweet? Your sweet sensation come from your tongue. So this molecule, the sugar need to bind with on the tongue taste bud, and the chemical signals turn into neuronal signal. When you take AP1, you will learn those cranial nerves connect to the tongue, like cranial nerve number 10, vagus. There's a very famous cranial nerve, parasympathetic nerve, and glossopharyngeal cranial nerve number 9, and the facial cranial nerve number 7. Don't worry about these three. You will learn that in AP1. And they will send the signals to the thalamus. Thalamus also, you will learn it in AP1. That's the brain area. I call it the train station because these information go to the thalamus, will go to different cortical area, to your cerebral cortex, so to the gustatory area. So finally, you produce the sweet sensation. But if we have a molecule, it can trigger this response. It triggers sweet sensation. So there's the artificial sweetness. They can use the chemical molecule, and well, and it will bind with the receptor on your taste bud. It will trigger even stronger sensation. So you can taste. They can taste very, very sweet. That's those artificial sweetness. And they say they don't have calorie because you could not use this aspartame to produce ATP. That's why they have no calories. But some studies show they also have some side effect. So we consider them not healthy in the scientific point of view. They're considered not healthy. Okay, the last one is polysaccharide. Polysaccharide is more than three combined together: glycogen, starch, and cellulose. So glycogen, that's the one you find in animal, like a liver. Your liver store a lot of glycogen. So when you feel hungry, your liver can turn those glycogen, just cut it into simple sugar. You find it just turn into glucose and release to your blood. So it can help to regulate, maintain your blood sugar level. This glycogen. Glycogen is the animal sugar. And starch, that's the plant sugar. So when you eat potato and starch, that's the plant sugar. So your digestive system will cut this into simple sugar as well, still simple sugar. So you eat starch, your body still have sugar. And the last one is cellulose. Cellulose is the polysaccharide. We could not digest it. You find structurally they just turn it 180 degrees, and suddenly our digestive enzymes won't be able to recognize it. So we won't be able to digest it. Some animals can, like a rabbit, they can digest cellulose. We could not. So some food, like you eat celery, if you like celery, some people don't like it because it's like eating water. Yeah. And it's considered negative calories food. You say, why negative calorie? The reason is they have a lot of cellulose. And when you eat it, your digestive system will try to digest it. And they will run ATP. It's like when you keep your engine running, you will use gasoline no matter what. So your digestive system will try to digest it, and they could not. So it turned out it's healthy because it will keep your digestive system keep going, and also it produced 0 calorie because your cell could not use this. They could not turn this into ATP, into glucose. So it turned out you lose calories when you try to digest this. So cellulose. And the only difference is it just turn the structure 180 degree, and suddenly our digestive enzyme won't be able to digest them because the enzymes, they're proteins. So protein are very specific to their 3D structure. So once you change the 3D structure, they won't be able to recognize it. And it turned out they won't be able to digest it. Okay, so that's the carbohydrate part.